Whitlock, that's Marcellus Wiley, that dude.
Yes, sir.
Want to speak for yourself, the most fearless show in sports. Coming up, we'll tell you what to expect in tonight's Rockets-Warriors showdown, but we start with last night's playoff games. All right, Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic should switch nicknames. Embiid is the Joker. Jokic is the process. That's the takeaway from last night's NBA playoff action. Embiid is turning himself into a big joke, and Jokic is at the center of a 4-year process in Denver that is headed for a massive payoff. On the night when the Philadelphia 76ers needed Embiid to duplicate Michael Jordan's flu game, the 7-footer moped around the court for 31 minutes during a 36-point loss to the Toronto Raptors. Embiid scored 13 points and turned the ball over 8 times. He should have stayed in bed sick. Late in the game, TNT cameras captured Embiid sitting on the bench staring at a stat sheet. Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley roasted Embiid.
I was thinking about when I played for the great Phil Jackson, the great Pat Riley, what they would say to my team at this point in time. And they both had the same tendencies. In a game 5, in a game that you need, they would come in. We would see stuff on the board when we get there. You know how you get there early? Right. Then they erase it. And then they both would say, can you step up to the challenge? If you want people to remember the process forever, you got to step up.
As a star player, you can never show weakness. You got to keep the other guys involved in the game. That's what he does. He complains so much about being sick, he drains the energy out the room.
Well, as expected, Sixers head coach Brett Brown had a different take. He defended Embiid. Take a listen.
I'm kind of disappointed, like he gets shooken around to me too much. Like he's trying to play for us. He's trying to get out of bed with a significant temperature and come represent the organization. I think it's grossly unfair. Some of the criticism that he gets, I don't understand that.
All right, Embiid is 24, playing in his 3rd NBA season and has been rather inconsistent in this postseason. His numbers are all down from the regular season, and it appears the league's gatekeepers have tired of his hey, look at me social media act. Embiid wants to be Shaq 2.0, a fun-loving giant. Problem is, at age 22, in just his 3rd NBA season, Shaq put a penny on his back and carried the Orlando Magic to the NBA Finals. Shaq's play always outshined his contemporaries and his diesel personality. That's not the case for Embiid. Out west, there's a 24-year-old 7-footer playing in his 4th NBA season who is unintentionally putting a clown suit on Embiid. Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets routed Portland in the TNT nightcap. Jokic finished with 25 points and 19 rebounds. All of Jokic's postseason numbers are all up from the regular season. Big Honey is doing his best work on the big stage. Without the fanfare and the social media preening, the Nuggets embarked on a 4-year process centered around Jokic, a 2nd-round pick from Serbia, in the same 2014 draft class that saw Embiid selected 3rd overall. In Jokic's rookie year, the Nuggets won 33 games. They won 40 the next year, and then 46 the following season. This season, the Nuggets won 56 and made the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. It's been a slow, steady process that has culminated with the Nuggets looking a bit like the modern-day version of Bill Walton's Portland Trailblazers. I'm not calling Jokic the next Walton. Jokic isn't nearly the defensive force that Walton was in his too brief NBA prime. But Jokic does elevate his teammates the way Walton did. Embiid elevates Embiid. The joke right now is on Philadelphia's process. All right, joining the desk now is Fox Sports NBA analyst Jim Jackson and Rick Bucher of Bleacher Report. Marcellus, I'll start with you. You being too hard on Joel Embiid?
Absolutely not. He wanted this. He loves attention. I'm guilty as well. And my grandmother used to say, once you call for attention, baby, you can't hang up. And think about it. Think about it. Once you want the smoke, don't start coughing now. Yeah, right on cue. Look at you over here. You wanted this smoke, Joel Embiid, going at everybody, you know, trolling them, clowning them, and doing those type of antics. Like you said, Shaq 2.0. Shaq went out there and said, game speaks first, and then everything comes because of that game. And because he came into these playoffs injured, and now he's going to leave sick, those inconsistencies and the lack of production at critical times is why we're on his head right now, as we should be.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a dean at the University of Body Language.
Okay.
So I'm a little upset at some of the interpretation about what's going on with Embiid and what it means, particularly from our friend Charles Barkley, is they sucking the energy out of the room and all that. I don't know, anytime a guy is injured or is ill of health, to determine exactly how much that's affecting him is always a slippery slope. I don't know. I don't know how he feels. I don't know how much it's affecting him. The fact of the matter is he has played. And to this point, I haven't heard him make any excuses. He has demonstrated that he's ill. There may be some indications that he's ill. But if he's not saying anything and he's going to suit up and he's going to try again, I'm going to give him that. The big issue that I have is the comparison between Embiid and Jokic, because we happen to have back-to-back games where one guy wins going away and the other one gets stuffed, because I don't think that that's a fair comparison. When I look at the teams and how they're built, it's not even. This is a team built for Jokic to shine and to do what he does. This is not a team built in Philadelphia to take the most.
That's incredible. You got to blame Philadelphia management. They've had a process, and he's been at the center of the process, but it's not built for the process?
Actually, the process was stopped halfway through. Now, I've never been a believer in the process, but they took the keys to the car from Sam Hinkie halfway through the process. He demolished it, he got all the assets, and then they said, thank you for your service, we're going to do the rest of it. I do not like the way this team is built, and I especially don't like the way it's built around Joel Embiid. You cannot play Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid together and think that you're going to get the best out of Joel Embiid.
Yeah. My issue, I guess, a good friend of mine is a minority owner with the Sixers. And a couple years ago, I told him, I said, the biggest challenge you're going to have with Embiid is he's going to try to be a star too much. And that's the thing. And that's the thing I talk about a lot about that, is that he can't do that. So the process is there, but he has to, I think Embiid has to get himself in better shape. First of all, a lot of this is on Embiid.
He looked good in that video, though.
Oh, he
right?
looked ripped.
When he was on
summertime.
stage, he looked ripped.
I think a lot of it, he has to get in better shape. To me, I'm going to demand a lot more out of Embiid. Listen, 141 games, I think it is, 410 games, he only played 158 in 3 years that he's been there, okay? Some injuries you can't control.
Right.
But being in shape and being ready to play is something that you can control. And again, the Philadelphia 76ers had to figure this out. I think it's too early to kind of break it up, but they had to put more demands, and Embiid has to come in better shape for me.
Not too hard on Embiid, the criticism last night and from others.
Well, no, because you're the star of the team, okay? Once you dress up, you say you're ready to play, anything you do, you're going to get criticized. If you have a great game, they're going to love you to death. If you don't play well, they're going to say, that's just part of the business.
Rick, the one thing I don't understand is, why is it unfair? These both guys are 24. They came out in the same draft. One went in the second round. One was the third overall pick. They're playing for two franchises that hadn't had, and I know they tore it all down in Philadelphia. But to see these guys and where they're at now, 4 years later, at age 24, why can't I compare them?
Well, you can, but I feel as if a lot of this is being built off of last night and last night's particular games. If I look at Joel Embiid's overall ability, he is a better player than Nikola Jokic when healthy and without injury. He is capable of doing more.
His postseason numbers, not just last night, his postseason numbers this year, all down from the regular season. Jokic's numbers all up from the regular season. It's not a one-off.
Okay, but who is he playing against? He's playing against the Portland Trailblazers right now that have Enes Kanter. I'm looking at a Joel Embiid who's playing with Jimmy Butler, who's a ball hog. Ben Simmons, who's a point guard who can't shoot and isn't always aggressive. And Tobias Harris, who you got through mid-season and you're still trying to
Is Mutombo playing center for Toronto? Or who's
No. But if you're asking me who's the better player, Marc Gasol or Enes Kanter, Marc Gasol by far. And then being able to bring a Serge Ibaka, the depth that Toronto has. My great issue with Toronto actually has been that they have not been taking full advantage of Joel Embiid not being 100%. Last night was the first time where I saw Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka really assert themselves. They should be doing that throughout if Embiid's not 100%. But he's playing against far more difficult talent in Toronto than Jokic is facing.
You know where Rick stands.
Portland.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's interesting, before we even go deeper into that comparison, I guess, is the fact that you brought up Shaq 2.0 and how you said, hey, don't try and be a star too much or too soon. It's amazing that in 2004, being out here in Los Angeles and watching them have to go through the riff of Kobe and Shaq, and they chose the younger, more stable, healthier, more invested player, but not the better player. And remember, there were conversations about, oh, Joel Embiid is untradeable. If anybody, is Ben Simmons. When I heard that, I said, they have that one backwards. Even if Ben Simmons doesn't have a jump shot, you still got to invest in the guy who seems like his focus is a little more into this. You disagree?
Well, I'm putting Ben Simmons next to Kobe Bryant as the choice is where I get a little nervous.
No, it's not those two, because he's not Shaq.
I understand what you're saying, though. But the more durable, the more consistent player,
more invested.
over the guy.
Rick, and this is more of a football phrase or cliche, but availability trumps ability.
I get it.
And Joel Embiid is very unavailable. And so, again, I think, and we know where you stand, but I'll start with you. I think between these two, Nikola Jokic I think he's the future of big men in this league. And trust me, it took me a while. Earlier this year, I was laughing at the thought of even talking about Jokic on this show.
Right.
But I'm watching this dude in the playoffs, and there's something real here.
He is a unique talent. I don't think he's the future, and I think we're going to get into this.
Big man. Yeah, that's where.
But for me, look, I get it with Embiid. I hate giving up on a young player who I look at, whose problems essentially, in my mind, are maturity issues. If you can take some of the kid out of Embiid, I look at what he's capable of. I look that he's fearless when, give me the ball, I want to attack. That's something I can't teach Ben Simmons. You either have that
approach or not. Let's move off Ben Simmons, and we're just talking about Embiid and Jokic.
Fair enough. I look at the abilities that Embiid has, and I have grave concerns about his health. It's why he's got a 35-page contract. I'm protected. I'm protected when it comes to that. But I would rather have, when I see a guy, and we all know it, you look at a guy and you go, boy, he's got everything. I'd rather look at a guy and say, he's got everything. Let me see if I can keep him healthy and get him to the finish line. Than a guy I look at and go, boy, that's nice, that's unique, but I can't believe that he's going to leave me someplace.
Well, I mean, Jokic has, here's the thing, too, it's time and situation. The situation in Denver is perfect for Jokic in regards to what he does as a player. Rarely do we see now the offense running through your post player. And they do that in Denver because of how the system is and because the guys are young and they're still trying to learn. My thing with Embiid is this, is that we talk about Shaq being an outgoing, fun guy. But when it crossed the line, how serious Shaq was. But Shaq's personality was like that when we were back in high school. But once he crossed the line, he knew when to shut that off, and he was serious about his game. Now, as he got older, he got out of shape and things like that. But during his prime, Shaq was all about his business once he crossed the line. I think a lot of times with Embiid, and this is a challenge, and I said this from the beginning with the Sixers, of how do you allow Embiid to be Embiid, but implore him to be more serious about his business. That's what you have to look at. Year 3, I say you got a couple more years to figure this out with Embiid, with his health, more importantly, with his attitude. If it doesn't happen, then you have to make a decision. But right now, I still think it's a little bit too early. But Jokic gives you the key to what a big man can do in the league when you have a skill set like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's interesting talking to Shaquille O'Neal. Maybe this was 3 years ago in the summer, and he was talking about how his son is so different than him in the way he plays as a big. And we were talking about how things are in your imagination until you see it, and then it's reality. And he was saying how he was stuck in the restricted area. He said coaches would yell at him when he got out of the restricted area. And then you watch the evolution. You see it go to a Garnett, and then you see it go to a KD. Then you see this unicorn Porzingis out there when available, and they just continue to stretch it. But now we're seeing a point center. Like, think about it, how it used to be a point forward was amazing. Now we're seeing a point center. So what's going to happen now is some kid who is trending that size is going to now have that available in his imagination and in reality. So, yeah, the future of big men is, why let someone else facilitate for you when you can be the focal point of that offense?
Alonzo Mourning is a good friend of mine, and we talk about this. He talking about if I played today, I said, dog, you wouldn't be the same player. Okay, because one, from the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, you're going to be taught to play on the perimeter. You're not going to be posted up. You're not going to have coaches that are say, anchor yourself down there on the block. So to your point, a lot of the bigs now that oh, wait, a lot of bigs that played in the past talk about how they'll dominate. I was like, no, you wouldn't. Because you would not be the same player growing up today because you'll be taught the game different. So to your point, I get what you're saying.
I think, and again, I don't want to compare this guy to Bill Walton in his prime because Bill Walton in his prime was a really special person. Defensively, offensively, the way he passed. But I do see some of those qualities in Jokic in terms he elevates this entire Nuggets team.
He's a thinking man's basketball player.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, and I love that. I love watching him play. But you talk about being in shape. He could use some of that, too.
A lot of that.
Well, and again, that's why it's only going to get better. He's just a kid.
Okay, so hold on. Hold on.
You caught it too. Go get him.
Wait. So Embiid he can't grow into being more serious about his job and his health. But the other kid is.
The other one's Embiid's got a personality that
Jokic does too.
Showtime all day.
Yeah, Jokic is crazy too. Jokic even admits he likes to eat. He almost accepts I'm out of shape. Like, he got your body on my height. And he out there just running around like, that's not good enough. You've been in the NBA too long to be that guy still and take it. Like, he doesn't matter.
On that?
I got to think about that with my body and your height.
Yeah, I like that.
How offended should I be on the scale?
That was off the dome right there, too. I like that.
Coming up, we'll give you our latest approval ratings for Joel Embiid, and Uncle Jimmy will tell us what he thinks of the slumping Sixers star. Also coming up, the Rockets have turned things around and made it a series against the Warriors. We'll tell you if they take control tonight. Don't forget to check us out on the Fox Sports